Hello, Year 3, and welcome to your third wider curriculum lesson this week. So before we move on to our lesson, I'd like you to do a quick recap on what you've learnt this week. So pause this video here, take a minute and talk to your teddy and tell your teddy what you've learnt about this week. Great. So this week we've learned about the Earth structure, we've learned about the tectonic plates, and we've learnt about Alfred Wegener. So with the Earth structure, we've learned that there are four parts to it. You have the crust, which is what we live on. You've got the mantle, which is underneath the crust, and it's really hot. Then you've got the outer core, which is a liquid substance, and it's really, really hot. And then you've got the inner core, which is extremely hot. And that is the middle of the Earth. Okay, and it's a solid. Fantastic. So now, with the tectonic plates, we've learned that you have two types of tectonic plates. You've got the oceanic and you've got the continental plates, and they all fit together like a jigsaw. Yeah. And we've also learned that it's the plates that help the crust move. Okay, so now with Alfred Wegener, we learned that he was a scientist. We learned that he had the tectonic plates theory. He believed that the Earth had looked like this, which we all know as the Pangea map. So he believed it was like a jigsaw puzzle and it looked like this before it started looking like the current world map, which showed you the 7 continents. So, and the reason he believed this is because he said if you look at South America, it fits perfectly into Africa. So he believes over time the plates moved around to create the current world map the way it is now. Fantastic. So our learning objective today is, can I understand what are plate boundaries? So the tectonic plates, we know there are two types. There's some that are underneath the ocean, and then there's some that are underneath the continents. But all these plates have boundaries. If you look over here, all these marks, these are boundaries. And boundaries are when a plate boundary is somewhere, it is somewhere where two different plates meet. So it is when you have two plates meeting. So for example, the South African American plate and the African plate, they meet here. So it's when two plates meet. So these are the two types of crusts we have. You have the continental crust and the oceanic crust. And underneath these two crusts, you have two different types of plates. You've got the oceanic plates and the continental plates. So I want you to talk to your teddy. I want you to tell your teddy, how do you think the surface of our Earth has changed? And when you are telling your teddy this, I want you to think about the physical features of Earth. And I want you to think about when Earth was a single landmass and current world map, and how it is with the current world map. You can pause the video here and talk to your teddy. Once you are done, you can come back to the video. Okay, fantastic. So the way the Earth's surface has changed is now you see a lot more volcanoes and mountains. So these volcanoes and mountains are growing each and every year. And at the same time, the way the Earth's surface has changed is previously, like millions and millions of years ago, it was a single landmass, which was the Pangea map, right? And then over time and over the years, it started turning into the current world map due to the way the surface of Earth was moving around because of the plates. Fantastic. So now what I'd like you to do is, I'd like you to watch the clip that I've got linked here. You can watch it however many times you like and make as many notes as you can. So please get your pen and paper and make as many notes as you can regarding this clip. Make sure, Year 3, when you watch this clip, you are making your notes. You can pause my video to watch the link. So please pause my video now and watch the link however many times you like. And when you're ready, come back to my video. Great. So from the video, these are the notes that I've taken and this is what I've learned. Okay, so I've learned that there is one type of boundary, which is called the divergent boundary. It's also called the constructive boundary. So it has two names. It's the divergent or the constructive, and the constructive. So this is when two plates, which where two plates, the oceanic plate and the continental plate, move apart. So they diverge apart, which means they move apart. Can you see the arrows? It's showing you that they're moving apart. So when they move apart, this is what forms volcanoes. And then the gap in between the plates that has been created because of their moving apart is filled up with magma to fill that gap. The second type of boundary is called a convergent and destructive. So it has two names again. It's called convergent and destructive. This is when the oceanic and continental plates meet. So you can see a continental plate moving and an oceanic plate moving. You can see the arrows, they're going towards each other. But what happens is the oceanic plate subsides, so it goes down under the continental one. And the reason it goes down is because the continental one is much more thicker than the oceanic ones. So when the oceanic one goes down, the rocks melt and they break apart. Yep. Now, the third type of boundary you have is a conservative. It's also known as a transform. This is when two plates move past each other in different directions or at different rates. They also move past each other in the same direction. So in this picture, you can see they're moving past the same direction. So when they're moving past each other, they cause friction, so they rub against each other. So let's do a little test. Get your hands. I want you to put your hands together, and I want you to rub your hands together. Can you feel that friction? That friction is creating heat with your hand. So what happens is when these two plates meet and they cause friction and rub, they get hot, 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 and then it creates an earthquake. So this is how earthquakes are caused. They're caused by two plates moving past each other and rubbing against each other. Now, the fourth type of a boundary is called a collision. It's also called a convergent. So do you remember this convergent, the destructive one? It's when the oceanic and the continental plates meet. But with the collision boundary, it's when two continental plates meet. So if you see here, is two continental plates meet. But when they meet, they hit each other, so they collide. It doesn't go down like the ocean one. This is because both of them are the same thickness, so they collide. So when they collide, they create mountains. So for example, the Himalayas were formed by the two continental plates meeting, colliding, and then basically creating the folds of the mountains. Fantastic. So year 3, what I'd like you to do now is you can pause the video here and re-watch the clip that you watched earlier, or you can go back on my video and make notes from my presentation. Now, once you have done that, you're ready to move on to the next bit. So please come back to my video. Now, your task today is to draw each boundary. So I want you to represent each boundary the best way you can. Then I'd like you to write which plate boundary it is. So if it's convergent, is it divergent, is it constructive, is it collision? And then I would like you to write a little explanation about it. I'll show you an example of what I've done. So I've written number 1, collision. I've drawn my arrows there to show the two plates meeting and then a mountain being formed. And I've written my explanation. And I've written, this is when two continental plates meet and make mountains, for example, the Himalayas. Then I've moved on to the next one, and I've written divergent, destructive. So I've written both the names it has. And I've shown that they're both moving apart, creating a volcano. Then my explanation says this is when two plates move apart and create volcanoes, which then fill up with magma. If you can just pause the video here and complete this task. When you're ready, come back to complete your extension task. Great. So your extension task today is to answer these 6 questions. So the questions you have are: what is a plate boundary? So you write down the meaning of a plate boundary. What is a convergent destructive plate boundary? So remember, these are the 2 names for one boundary. So what it is, so what it does. Same with number 3, what is a divergent constructive plate boundary? Number 4, what is a conservative plate boundary? Number 5, what is a collision plate boundary? Then number 6, what are the different features found at these boundaries? So, for example, with convergent, you would find, with divergent, you'd find volcanoes. With conservative, you'll find earthquakes. With collision, you'll find mountains. Fantastic. So now, when you are ready, so when you have done your tasks, please take a picture of your work and post it on Tapestry for your class teacher to see. Goodbye, year 3.